Good morning. My name is Betsy Blosser, and I've been a member of this congregation since 1989. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. In the spring of 1990, the Reverend Joy Atkinson, then finishing her second year as our minister, asked members of the congregation to fill out a simple form to provide information the church would need in the event of our death. The form included names and contact information of next of kin and others who should be contacted, as well as whether we preferred a funeral or a memorial service and where such an event should be held. Beyond that, the form asked for any readings or music we might want at such a service. I thought this was a terrific idea. At that point, I was a comparatively young single parent out here in California with my relatives and a lot of friends back in the Midwest where I grew up. At that time, my older son was barely 2 years old, so he wasn't a good source of information. And my younger son hadn't been born. I had a close friend who lived in Palo Alto, but no one at the church knew her. Beyond that, I had some ideas of my own about how I would like to be remembered, and this form was a good place to state those preferences, as well as to store names and contact information. It feels egotistical to say that, but my guess is that all of us have ideas about how we'd like to be remembered, whether we admit it out loud or not. Fast forward to roughly a year ago, when we as a congregation were in the midst of the big transition that is still ongoing. I began worrying about the lack of a minister familiar to members of the congregation who could perform a meaningful memorial service for a congregant in the event of his or her death. Thinking about the memorial services I had attended here across the years, I recognized that the services that truly reflected who the person was depended on a prior relationship between the minister and that individual. But given our circumstances, such a relationship was unavailable at that time. Then I remembered the form. Oh yeah, that form. I had worried for years because I remembered listing a piece of music then that today I wouldn't be caught dead using. Oops, I would be embarrassed to have used. The old forms weren't unearthed from their storage places until recently, and certainly hadn't been updated since they were originally filled out in 1990. Anyway, I talked to Becky Howland, our POBOT, about the old form, and she set me to work developing a new form that could serve the same purpose. What I developed, in turn, went to Reverend Stephanie, who tweaked and amplified it. Then the form went to the pastoral care team and Reverend Tobis for another revision. Finally, Kathy Kinner created the form as an online document that could be updated at will. The new form, which we are introducing today, is called the Memorial Wishes Plan. We have hard copies of the form in the entryway and in the Benner room. It is also available to you in electronic form on the UUSM website. The link to the electronic copy of the form should be in today's bulletin, although I couldn't find it. Maybe someone else can. By the way, this information will be kept entirely confidential, but will be available to the minister at the time that it is needed. I suggest you take a look at the form. Rather than simply a planning directive, it is a document that encourages you to take a look back over your life and reflect on what has been meaningful to you. What experiences have shaped your life? What people have been important to you? What values have guided your actions? In addition, it asks specifics about a service. Who should speak? What readings you particularly like, and what music would be your preference. Overall, the form presents an opportunity to think about your life and what has given it meaning. If exploring this Memorial Wishes form is something you'd like to do, but at the same time the idea of facing this form is upsetting, the members of the pastoral care team, Reverend Tovis and I, are available to talk with you about the form and help you fill it out. It's been my experience that there is another benefit to filling out a form like this. It is a gift to those you leave behind. Much like a will, which saves your family from making difficult financial decisions, filling out this form saves those you leave behind from trying to figure out what you would have wanted in a memorial service. You have done the heavy lifting for them, and that is a blessing.